all that I tell in Extases is the truth. I tell really my life, part of my life.
Five years ago, I started on a journey discovering comics. I have been reading them, but not really discovering them. And I found that there was a whole world of comics that I did not know. And today, that journey leads me here with you, Mr. JeanLouis Tripp, because you just published a book. But I am not quite familiar with you and your work. Probably people will hate me for this because it's a shame, because I heard you have a book out that is really important. But maybe can you tell a little bit about yourself and how you started in comics?
It's a long story. I started when I was quite young, in 1978, in a magazine called Métal Hurlant, which was a very famous magazine of the 70s and 80s in France. And well, I was 19 years. And then I began to publish books, comics books. Mm-hmm. Then in the 90s, I stopped for about 12 years. I stopped to draw stories, and I painted, I sculpted, I made many things in art, yeah. But not comics. And I came back to comics in 2001, and then I'm still going on. But my art changed completely, because in the 80s I was drawing stories about how can I say, geopolitical. Yeah. About USSR, about the apartheid in South Africa, things like that. And now I'm talking. I think I'm going on talking about politics, but it's not the same way. I talk about human being in the society and how we can exist as we are, mm-hmm. with what we feel in a society that is really that have borders of taboos, sexual, political, social, etc. Yeah. And my last, before doing Extases, mm-hmm. I made with another French author called Régis Loisel a story in 9 issues called Magasin Général, which has been translated in Netherlands, and which is talking about the emancipation of a woman in a little village in Quebec in the 1926. It's a story of emancipation, of feminism, it talks also about homosexuality, things like that. And Extases, for me, it's another way to talk about that.
I must say, when you are out of comics for 12 years and getting back into that, there have to be a really good reason.
Telling stories. That was the reason, because when I was painting or sculpting or making sketches on travels, things like that, for a moment it was okay, but after 7 or 8 years, I began to realize that telling stories was I was missing that. So it began to turn in my head, and at a point the opportunity was there, and okay, I went back to telling stories, and that was what I prefer.
When was your new book Extases published?
In France, it was the first issue. It was 2 years ago, and the next one will be published in France in March. And actually, the first one has just been translated in Nederlands. So, well, and the second, and I don't know, probably next year, I hope.
I didn't know when the French one was published. I heard about the Dutch one because Sherpa, the Dutch publisher, they put out a part of the story, which I read, and well, next to, of course, I mean, with comics, the images is the first thing you notice. So I see the first few pages, it's like wow, and one of the things I personally like in comics are expressions in the face, and I really love the expressions you put in there.
But only the face.
I'm sorry?
Not only the face.
There are a few more expressions indeed. But I understood that this is, I mean, you have personal stories, but you have personal stories. And I believe yours is a bit of the latter?
All that I tell in Extases is the truth. I tell really my life, part of my life. And as I said, it's a story about emancipation and on a political point of view of the emancipation. And I wanted to talk about that, about how in our societies our body, as our body is a tool of pleasure. The nature made something really wonderful, that for we want to reproduce ourselves, we have the pleasure. So it's natural. We are pleasure animal, pleasure being. In our societies, the pleasure is always a problem. The pleasure of the body is a problem because of religious reason, in all the religions, because of political reasons. For me, it's a huge problem because it's crucial. I think that those taboos, those borders, are there for controlling us. Because when people are really happy with their body, happy in their life, happy because they have pleasure, they have, our bodies, when we have pleasure, we have hormones,
Yeah.
and we feel good, we feel, and when the people are too happy, it's more difficult to control them. And in our society, we replaced somewhere that kind of pleasure by buying things, by consummation.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, and it's not natural, and it's not only not natural. It's a kind of disease. People have. We never had so many. How can I say? Mental, but not. People are not happy.
Yeah.
You can see that every day. People are not happy, and I think that this is a problem. So I wanted to. This is really the source of the problem, the root. So I wanted to talk about that, about why can't we be, how can we behave, how the nature wanted that. So that's my point.
Well, I have to say, I understand the reason definitely why, and if you look around in the world, it is a fact that people are unhappy.
And actually, the way I choose to tell that story is to tell not only the truth about my life, but how things happen in the real life. So, when in the real life you are with somebody you love, in a bedroom, in a bathroom, in a park, and you are there because you want something, you really want that.
Yeah.
At that moment, you see things. You see the body of the other. You see your own body in interaction, connection, and you see parts of the body that you never see in movies or in comics, except in porn.
Yes.
So we have a kind of disconnection between porn, pure porn, with no story, and porn is not real life. Porn is just there to excite us, and that's it. And all the stories told of the real life, and on that stories you never see sex. You see the window with the moon. You see the curtains in the wind. You see the shoes on the floor. You see things like that. But war, shadows of the bodies. But you don't see what's really happening. And that what I wanted to show, because it's life.
Yeah.
This is my point. It's life. So I show it as it happened in life.
Well, that's true, because if you see a movie and there is, for example, a sex scene in that movie, they always come out of bed with clothes on. And every time I see that, it's like people get a real strange idea about sex that way.
Yeah, they go out of the bed and they say not. It's not like that.
No.
It's not like that. So, well, this is what I wanted, and I think that this way of telling a story is political. It's a political position for me to tell the story like this.
Yeah. Is that also the reason why you made it your story, so that that other people can't say something about it, because it is your story, that other people can say about it?
I think that if I have told the same story but with a character called Michael or Denis or anywhere, and who have been inspired by me but not told as me in the story, it was not the same thing. It should have been fiction, and the fiction, I think, in that kind of story has not the same impact than the real life. There, I say it's my life. It's not. I'm not especially proud of that. I'm not telling to people this is a good way, and it's not pedagogic. I have no lessons, absolutely no lessons to give, but I I pay of my body. I put my body on the scene, and I say not only my body but me on the scene. And I say, well, my life is that. It's like a coming out. No.
It takes a lot of courage, I guess, to do that.
No.
Okay.
No, because this is a question that everybody asks to me, okay, and I say no, because what the reason of why you ask me that question is that you think about shame, okay, and when you assume something, when you're okay with something, you're not ashamed. If I have told the same story, but not talking about that, but my passion for cooking or for opera or anything, nobody would say me it's courageous. Well, because nobody is ashamed of cooking, but people are ashamed of sex, and the shame is the only human emotion that comes from outside us.
Okay.
There is a French psychiatrist called Boris Cyrulnik that work about that, and you see, look at the little kids, when they are at home, they are absolutely no problem to be naked, to touch their sex, and because they are not ashamed. It doesn't exist for them. And the shame comes by the way other people look to you and what they say to you. Oh, put your knickers on, don't touch your sex, don't do this, don't do that, because it's not the way we do in the society. And this happens to give us some shame, but it's not natural. It comes from the outside. you're not ashamed of the things that you're perfectly okay with.
Yeah.
And it took me a long way to be perfectly okay with my own sexual life, because I talked about that in the second issue. I had some part of my life when it's been difficult, because I thought that I was not normal. No, people don't do like that. People don't have the je trouve pas le mot, I don't find the word, but they don't want necessarily the desire, not the same desire than you. And so it took me a long way with therapy, with different kind of working on myself. And at one point, I began to be okay when I was more than 50 years. And I said, okay, I'm like that. You like it, it's okay. You don't like it, I'm sorry for you, but well. And I think that the way that people talk me about Extases, talk of them, not on me, not of me. Okay?
That's true.
So, me, I'm okay with that. I'm not ashamed. I'm not especially proud. It's just the facts. Well,
one of the things I was going to ask you is, what is the question you get most asked about the book? But well, that was that question then. I have to take my phone. There was a part in the book, this part.
Yeah.
When I saw, and I believe that a similar scene comes back later, but I was looking for it. But
yes, when I don't want to spoil, but when I was 18 years old, my little brother died in a car crash, and it was for me, it was a very hard moment of my life. And you'll see in the second issue too, I had the moment where I thought about dying, but I never did it.
Fortunately, otherwise we wouldn't be having this conversation.
Yeah. But I've been in some parts of my life. I've been in depression at some point because I asked too many questions about myself, and was turning. When I was a little boy, sometimes I think that I'm not okay. It's difficult for me. Not all the time, of course, but at some time. And I was very shy, very shy. I'm still shy. People don't believe me when I say that, but it's true. I'm shy, and the shyness is it can be like an invisible wall between you and the other people. And with the girls, when I was a boy, it was terrible because I was so shy. And I was really sad to be shy like that. So, well,
when I saw these just 4 images, and then I thought, like, well, wow, it really had an impact on me. You know, that part was included in the story as well. So I must say it was a very special. How do you say it? I don't have a word for it. For how I feel like after having read the book, but it did have a definite impact on me in the way you bring the story, and also visually. It contains some quite graphic scenes. I have a feeling there's also some humor in it, in the form of this devil character.
It's I don't know the word in English, but in French it's a faune. It's a kind of mythologic character, and it represents all the desire, the natural, I don't know the word. What we want, our animal part, the pure desire, This is that. And so he comes, in the story, sometime he arrives and he talks to me about that. He says, "Well, go, listen to your desire, go." And it's like, it's a little bit like, you know, in I don't know, in Nederlands, with Tintin, you know. Yeah. And Milou, the dog, he has a little representation of himself as an angel, and another. Well, so he's in a conflict with both of them, and I think that we all people are in conflict at some moments between their desire and the society, and what the society tell, that this is okay, this is not okay, this, well, you can do it, but you don't talk about that, all that thing. So it's that the I don't know the word in English, but in French it's a faune. Okay. F-A-U-N-E.
Okay, now I understand, because I thought it was a little bit of a devil, and then the reaction why I said the evil is because you know, from society's point of view, it's a sort of evil, but
devil is a religious way, is a moral way to talk about that. And my point is not that. It's positive for me. It's natural. Yeah. It's a nature, but a pure nature, with no problem of don't do this, don't do that. Go on. You want that? Go on. But there is one thing, and I talk about that many times in the books, is that the other person is okay with what you want. This is very important. Yeah. You must not formally ask, but offer something, and the other has to say, okay, well, make you understand that she is or he is okay with that. Yeah. And consentment, is that the word? Yeah, that's well, consentment. Yeah. Well, it's the same one. So this is very important. That this is the way to control our desire, to control ourselves, not what the society says, but I have that desire, and I must be sure that the person or the several one or many or several persons with are okay. If everybody is okay, if everybody is adult and okay, there is no problem. The society has not to judge. Nobody has not the right to judge. Yeah. But we must be sure that everybody is okay. That's my point.
And I think that is why the book is important, that story, because we live in a world where things have changed so dramatically, I would almost say, in many ways, not just about sex, but in many ways that, sometimes it's hard, or it feels like it's almost impossible to say or do anything because of what people will say. So what do you hope that when people read your book, what do you hope they will take away from it?
I think that different people will take different things. Again, I think that the way that people read this book is not talking of me, but talking of them. Yeah. So it's different. Of course it's different. Me, I just want to talk about try to be really yourself, to be kind to other people, to be sweet, to be and to make sure that everybody is okay with what you want. Yeah. And to do with them, and the other things, it's not your problem. The taboos, the religious taboos, political borders. It's not my problem. I respect the law, of course, but the law, on my point of view, the law has not to go in the bedroom.
We are talking about the law, and we hear a police car. This is Brussels. You hear police cars every hour or so.
No, I think that the law has not to go in the bedrooms. If we are with adults and adults consenting to be there and to do what we are going to do, the law has not its place.
And whatever we do, we have to enjoy it.
Yeah, of course. If we are there, it's for enjoy that. So, well, make love, not war, don't worry, be happy, and all that sort of things.